Hey everybody, it's Robert coming to you with another adventure into history, and I'm out here with Mr. Dan the man, Mr. Dan the historian man, and we are out here metal detecting. Where are we at, Dan? We're behind a relatively modern house, but what used to be here?
Well, this used to be the old Pitts home place. This was the home of Irby Hudson Pitts, and before it was his home place, it was the Anderson Jones place. And we've been out to the cemetery and seen the grave of Susan Whitehead Jones. And Anderson Jones sold this place to Mr. Pitts, and this was the Pitts home place from 1865, I believe, up until I think they sold it in the 1940s.
Gotcha.
But the old Pitts home burned years ago, 1955 or 56, and they built the Methodist parsonage here, which is a modern brick home. It was built about 1959 or 1960. But all this area back in here was where the little dependency buildings were for the old Pitts place. There were barns and chicken houses and little tenant houses and things back here.
So we do have a picture of this, of the old Pitts house that used to be here, right?
We do. We have one that's an aerial photo taken in 1950 or 51, I believe. So it shows the back of the house as it appeared then. But before that, it was a very Victorian style house that had been built sometime in the 1850s. Pitts family renovated it sometime around 1919 into a two-story, more modern house.
And so this was, originally it was a plantation house, correct?
It was. It was the Anderson Jones plantation.
And when it was the Anderson Jones plantation, how far out that way did it go? Because the highway wasn't there at the time, right?
That's right. The highway was not here. The railroad was not here. This was all the Anderson Jones plantation back in here. And he farmed land that he owned, as well as land that his wife's uncle and his wife's father owned. His wife's father was William Whitehead, and William Whitehead's brother was Thomas Whitehead. Thomas Whitehead owned the house that was on the hill next to where the telephone office is now, and that house is gone as well. But Thomas Whitehead had no children, so he allowed Anderson Jones to farm this section, and later Mr. Pitts farmed that section over there, which comes up behind his wife's family's old home place, which Mr. Pitts' wife was a Whitehead as well. So all of this in here was, you could say, was all the Whitehead place at one time. But prior to that, it was Whiteheads and Osborns. And this right in here, up in front of this neighborhood, was the old Alabama Road that came through Waverly Hall, and the stagecoach stop was near here, and the original courthouse for the county. And this area right in here is really undisturbed. It's never been a whole lot done here, except for when the old Pitts house burned, they bulldozed and pushed all of the ashes and everything over in this area here, behind this house.
So you mentioned the courthouse for the county was here, and that was when this was Muskogee County, right?
That's right.
And Waverly Hall was actually the original county seat for Muskogee County, which is a very cool, little known fact.
That is correct. It was the courthouse here for Muskogee County from 1826, I believe, until 1828, when the county was split up.
That's awesome.
Yeah, this for the most part has been undisturbed, because this was all the fruit orchard behind the Pitts house. This was the backyard. The front yard was around that way and went down to what's now Highway 208. And of course, none of this was behind us. None of this back here was not here then. This was all just the back side of the farm. There was no highway there. The main road was in front. And later, the railroad came through town. And that's the old railroad bed right down there where the walking track is now. And the railroad came through here in 1886 and 87. But this was all the fruit orchard. And the last remaining things here are the pecan trees, but there were fig trees, pear trees, and apple trees, but all that's gone.
Okay. And there are no houses from that era that are left, right? Right here?
Not right here in the middle of town.
Yeah.
There are the old stagecoach houses still here, but
right.
Not.
As far as what used to be here, everything's gone.
That's right.
Except for what's in the ground, which is why we're metal detecting today, and we've been at it for probably an hour now, and we haven't had a whole lot of luck, and you never bring the camera out until you found your first artifact. But as it turns out, we have found two that we're going to show you right now. We'll show you the cool one first. So I just pulled this out of this hole right here. This signal sounded really good. It was a high tone in the 80s on my Garrett AT Pro, and I thought it was a coin on the metal detector, and then when I saw just the lift of it sticking out, I got real excited because I knew it was a coin. But it's not a coin. This is a old motor oil advertisement token, and it's just a really neat piece. And as Dan said earlier, you got to wonder how it got here. I think what happened was somebody had just bought some high vis motor oil, which stands for high viscosity motor oil, not high visibility like the other Robert. Someone had just bought some high viscosity motor oil, and this was early high mileage motor oil. Basically, on the back of the coin it says if your mileage is 5 figures, which is it says, I think that says 10,000 to 30,000 miles, use high vis 5. If your mileage is over 30,000, use high vis 6. So it's got a little guide on there as to what kind of motor oil you need. So someone had just bought some high vis motor oil in their 1920s car that was over 30,000 miles, and the engine blew up right there, and they just chunked it over here. Actually, that road wouldn't have been there in 1920s, would it? In 1930s. Would that road have been there? No. Oh, well.
But the driveway was around this way in the barn.
Okay,
so
well, that's it.
They just tossed it up in the air.
Right. And so the second artifact we have that is worth something, we do have a toothpaste tube.
Oh yeah. We have toothpaste and a aluminum, well, part of a can, but an old aluminum toothpaste tube. But that's interesting. That is solid brass. I believe it's either a doorknob or a little ball off of a brass bed, like a bedpost. I'm not sure. It's not thin brass like some things, but it's heavy. That leads me to believe that it may have been a doorknob.
Yeah.
But little brass doorknobs, you know, about that big around, were pre-Civil War era, weren't they? Like early homes, like 1830s and 40s, which could be.
This was our first artifact. It's too bad it's all damaged. We just had another really good signal in the 80s. That's it. Yeah, another good signal in the 80s that we're going to dig up. And as we're about to demonstrate, this is the hardest soil in all of Waverly Hall, Georgia here too. Let me find it again. That is it. That's it. That's as far down as the shovel goes.
Yeah.
So we aren't, you know, but a couple miles away from the Old Bird Farm. So if you watch my other channel, you've seen the soil that I have out there, and just this drastic difference, just, you know, a mile or two up the road. It's red clay here and
Hard red clay.
Hard red clay. Yeah, that's it. But
what is it?
I have no idea. I have no idea what that is.
I believe it's aluminum, whatever it is. I do not know.
Well, it sure did sound good.
Yeah.
It sounded smaller than that too. Mystery item.
It's thick aluminum.
So we moved a little bit. We're behind the Methodist church. If you can hear it there behind me. And we got something kind of interesting in the ground right here, pulling it out piece by piece. You have the, these are the pieces that have come out. And it's something kind of decorative. At first I thought it was a saw blade because the serrated edges on that. something kind of decorative, so I'm going to keep going and pulling it out. I don't know if you could hear a word I said over that. Try not to break it anymore. So any ideas as to what that might be, Dan? Oh. No idea. We'll tell you after the next song.
Yeah, I do. It's the burner off of a lamp.
Oh, okay.
How it got into so many pieces.
There's a big piece of it down here. There's another piece. Oh. Ta-da!
That is some kind of a burner off of a lamp, maybe?
This is what it looks like.
Yeah. There's the thing that raises the wick up and down right there. That little knob.
Alright, so this is what we just pulled up out of the ground. Started with these small pieces right here. And I gave it to Dan, and you called it, Dan. You said you thought it was a piece of a lamp. And this is it. I just pulled the mechanism out. And what do you think it is, Dan?
It's either a burner out of a kerosene lamp, or it may have come out of a kerosene stove. I believe it's a lamp, though, I think. There's the wick razor right there. Yep. Scrap brass.
That's right. But an artifact still.
Yeah.
Now, we're right behind the Methodist church. What was here? We're not far from where we started either.
No, we're just down the hill from where we started. This is where the railroad section foreman's house was, and the railroad, what they call the railroad shanties. It was 3 tenant houses here where the railroad workers lived. The section foreman lived in the big house, and then there were, I believe, 1 or 2 families lived in each house that was here, and there were 3 of those. And one of those houses still exists. It's Ben Reeves has made it into a little cabin, but it used to be right up here by where the oak tree was. And the other 2 were taken. The Vardaman family had one, and I want to say the other one was carried to Ellerslie. I believe that it may still exist down there on the Warm Springs Road.
Gotcha.
I think. But I know that the one here is still out here on Ben's property. But they were little 2-room houses that had a fireplace in the center of the house. But the house that was out here was a big L-shaped house. And it burned sometime in the late 1940s or early 50s. And supposedly when Mr. Ward was the section foreman, and when he lived there, he said that he had several gold coins that burned up in the house. So maybe we can go over there and find something.
Yeah, definitely. How old was that house?
It was built when the railroad came through in 1880.
Gotcha. So it was built before the railroad foreman. Gotcha. Cool. Let's check it out. So we just got one of the best signals I have ever gotten on my metal detector. Right here behind the Methodist church. Mr. Scott just pulled up, by the way. The best signal I've ever gotten on my metal detector. Very loud, amazing. What was it, Dan?
Self-tanning cream by Copper Tone.
Yeah, I can use that. I can take it out by my pool.
Did you lose this here? How did that get here? How did it get that deep in the ground?
Right? Yeah, it was that far down.
I didn't know they even made that stuff that long ago. That's...
Someone was standing back here behind the Methodist church, causing a stir in Waverly Hall, Georgia.
Well, certainly it would have caused a stir.
You can hear the blue-haired ladies talking about that.
Yeah. Sudden tan bronzing foam. So it was an aerosol. Is that right?
Yeah, I
If
guess
it's
so.
a foam.
Yeah, that's not. It's not really that old.
No,
But how did it get that deep in the ground?
that's it. Something by Coppertone.
This ain't new grass. I mean, it's been here.
That's it. Find of the day right there.
Mistress.
Yeah.
Find of the day, boys.
Since we're looking for gold. You take pennies too.
It does. Pennies actually sound really good on the metal detector. We're back to the hard soil now. The only place it was easy to dig was the Coppertone. So, I think you mentioned this, where the section foreman's house burned down now. So we're digging here where the section foreman's house was. We're hunting the lost gold, and we found absolutely not gold, because gold rings up in a trash level, I think, usually on a metal detector. So I'm just pretty much digging all the signals, and we found trash. But even in the trash metal that we're finding out, Dan's able to identify it, and it brings clues to this area. So what do we have, Dan?
The cap off of a milk bottle, aluminum cap, and the pouring spout off of a box of salt.
I never would have guessed. And the two milk caps actually have charring on them,
Yeah.
where they went through a fire.
Yeah, they've actually been through a fire. There were two stuck together. You can see the black smut there. And a nail, of course. We always find nails.
So we know we're in the right spot from the charring. For sure. All right, we're gonna keep looking. We're gonna find this gold, or at least a coin, or something maybe. So I've got a really interesting signal right here, and as it turns out, it's in a fire ant bed. And you know, well, they say, you know, nothing good comes easy, so that's got to be the exact spot that the gold is in.
Don't stick your hand down in there.
Oh, I ain't sticking my hand down in there.
There's a piece of glass, I see.
I'm looking. I see the glass. Look at all the charcoal in there.
Yeah.
The charred wood was. All right, we'll dig it a little bit more. Maybe.
A lot of charcoal down there.
There is. What is that? Is that just a rock? It's just a rock.
All that char.
Definitely evidence of a house fire. How many years since, Dan?
I think it was in the early 50s.
Yeah.
Is that it?
That's what it was.
There's more down in there.
So like aluminum. Aluminum that's been through a fire. Nope. Ain't gonna bite me today. All right. All right, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the metal detecting trip with me and Mr. Dan. You know, we didn't find a whole lot of cool stuff, but we're definitely doing it in a really historic area, so I think that is cool. And the advertising token was super cool. And if you need any self-tanning foam, we got it for you. We'll see you next time.